Kuga says they've come a long way and there's one last test left. He asks what's so special about that. After which his team says goodbye to him, and she is surprised. He asks to wait and clarifies whether he is being expelled, citing their acquaintance from their time at the academy. When she says that it can be explained in 2 words, it's a matter of his class. Then he is told that he understands everything. She claims that it will be better for their group. Following this, Kuga was surprised when she explained that he would go on alone. He is told that this is his last assignment with the group, but he understands that they want him to stay here forever. Meanwhile, the girl persuades Sarah. Sarah claims she will kick him out if necessary. And then he tells Mikari not to worry, and she is surprised. Kuga tells Sarah that he understands and opens the dungeon gate. At the same time, he gratefully accepts the invitation and finds himself in the vampire's lair. She wonders why he came to fight alone. Moreover, mysterious dungeons suddenly appeared on the earth. 50 years have passed since the appearance of demons and magic. One day, the magic resurrection appeared in the world, capable of reviving the dead. In addition, people flocked to dungeons in droves, making them very popular. He claims that there is a hidden room in the dungeon from which there is no return. The room ended up getting its name from a past incident where a group of people entered it, but no one returned. He reports that they all used a one-time resurrection spell and left the dungeon. After which he explains that it's the monster, and she asks what that means. She asks him if he will agree to a duel. When she asks if he was banished here, he explains that this is indeed the case. She says she understands, and he is surprised. She then reports that he is standing in front of a monster who looks completely calm. He disagrees and understands that this will happen. Following this, he explains that this is even better. She is glad to see him and asks if he thinks why, and he is surprised. Meanwhile, she claims that everything is simple. She said she was bored, and he's getting ready to attack with his sword and says, "Damn!" And then she notices that he doesn't know how to wield a sword, and he is surprised that he was able to repel the attack. Kuga explains that Vampire's special skill is teleportation. She remarks that he's terrible with a sword, and the man remarks that she could easily kill him. At the same time, he explains. He claims she's just playing. He also attacks the girl, who dodges, and they continue moving towards each other. She is surprised that he is not afraid, and he explains that he cannot let fear control him. Additionally, Kuga delivers a powerful blow, and Rai deflects the attack, showing confidence in the fight. She screams and he tenses to react to the attack. He ends up explaining that he uses healing. Kuga is surprised, and she asks if he has healing. She thinks it's a good trick, after which he claims that this is not just a trick but does so uncertainly. The hero admits that he mistook the class for the hero's class, when he says that attack, defense, magic, and support are also recovery. He is capable of doing everything at a high level. His endurance is high. He then explained that otherwise he would be inferior to anyone who specialized in one skill. It is explained that due to dungeon restrictions, the group cannot be larger than 4 people. This is followed by talk about the need for each group member to specialize in order to achieve high efficiency. Saint Sarah is a physical attack specialist, Saint Yuria is a magical attack specialist, and Sorceress Mikari is a support mage. Meanwhile, she says that during the fight with the vampire, she had to take on the role of healer. He says he experienced something new, and then he explains that in order for no one to die, it is not necessary to kill, and says that it is really that simple. She notes his attractiveness. At the same time, he asks what kind of thing is hovering above them. He asks what it is and explains that it is a warning drone. He also clarifies that this is not a request for help, and does not understand why he needs to explain to a vampire how a drone works. He explained that there are video broadcasts where viewers can watch the dungeon crawl and leave comments while the vampire remains silent. Moreover, she listened with great interest. He asks if she watched their fight, and she's surprised that she can do this thing. He eventually confirms that it is true and clarifies that it was given to him by his former band. He gives her a parting gift, and she is surprised and asks why he is sad. After which he is surprised, and she thanks him. She claims that he is the first one who showed her so many interesting things. When he is silent, she asks what people are writing in the comments now. She says that this vampire is just a cutie, and he explains. Then he says that this vampire is just a cutie. She's surprised by the large number of comments. He explains that it means a lot of people liked her. Following this, she notices that they are liars. She is surprised by the number. He calls them liars. Meanwhile, he says that the comments are usually honest, and she is surprised that it really is honest. She is surprised and asks if she said something strange. And then she asks if he can give her such a drone, and he is surprised and asks to explain what she means. She says she'll stream too, and he asks how. At the same time, she explains that this is why she needs this drone. He explains that he doesn't know how to give the drone as a gift and asks if she can leave the room, and she says of course she can. She also receives a notification when she tries to enter a room, after which she quickly gathers herself and teleports away. She says she woke up from a dream when he came and immediately flew here. She also claims that she can leave at any time and asks if he understands this. He explains that action is needed and asks to begin. In the end, she suggested streaming together. He claimed to know about her beautiful blood. After which she says, oh, and he is surprised at the promising future. He says it went from, I want a drone to let's stream together. When he tells her that he had one main problem, and she remains silent. He says that from the time of the academy to the present day. He then explains that he fought for others and that was all he did. He never aspired to success or fame. He was desperate. Sarah decided to put an end to his aimless life. Following this, he tells that he met a strange vampire. She confesses her love. Meanwhile, he could not answer clearly when asked if he was sure, and adds however. He claims that everything is fine. And then Kuga says that she is glad to meet him, and he explains that he is ready to help in any matter. The text reveals that this is the beginning of a story of exile that develops into a remarkable duet. At the same time, he asks Alicia what she is going to do, and she answers with a question. She states her name. He also apologizes for the rude question and asks who gave it to her, and she replies that she doesn't know. Alicia always knew her name, and he understood. Also, his name is Kuga and he is 24 years old. He asks Alicia what she wants and she is surprised, calling him by a cool name. Finally, he asked her what she was talking about. She replied that she was bored. He says he wants to be a boss, and he's surprised and asks what exactly. After which she declares that she wants to become the final boss of the dungeon. He says that then the question arises and she asks how to become one, and she remains silent. When she says that you need to reach at least SS rank first. She clarifies the minimum requirements for becoming a boss and presents him with the document. He then explained that to achieve the rank of SS rank boss, one must defeat at least 30 A rank and S rank group invaders, capture the clans of other S rank bosses, build a fortress, and take the position of SS rank boss. Kuga is surprised by the presence of instructions and imagines a situation with a man in armor and a girl with wings. Following this, he argues that it is necessary to defeat other researchers. He speaks, but she remains silent. Meanwhile, she apologizes for her thoughtlessness. He claims that she is also an intruder and she is asking him for help. And then he explains that in general he is not against it but says no. He asserts and she is surprised. At the same time, he says that no one forbade fighting against other people, and she is surprised. In a dungeon raid, all participants respawn upon death, but cannot re-enter. Moreover, when a person dies, special magic resurrects him outside the dungeon. The effect only occurs once. If he dies, he will no longer be able to enter the dungeon. Moreover, the awareness of immortality grants freedom of action. The text indicates the battles. He ends up saying that there are streamers who duel other people. He says that she is one of the best members of the group and is considered a duelist. After which she is surprised, and he is silent. She explains that this is one of the conditions and says that it says to defeat a rank 5 group. When she says there are only 4 S-rank groups. He confirms his rank, and she asks him about his rank. Then she says that everything is clear. She asks if there are people who are higher in rank than him. Following this, he says that it is natural. He asks his interlocutor if he has a rank, and adds that there were no vampires on the S-rank boss lists. Meanwhile, she claims that she has no rank, and he assumes that she is a hidden boss and agrees with this. She prefers to start from scratch. And then she decides that the goal of their channel will be, she declares that she will become the new SS rank boss, surpassing the previous one and instilling fear, and he explains that they will show everything to make people think twice before going down into the dungeon again. At the same time, he says that it is wonderful and Kuga thinks that it is, and he wonders why she needs it. A few hours later, she speaks. She also greets viewers and reads messages in the chat where they call her a cutie and question her seriousness. She is surprised by the number of comments and viewers, and he explains that they are starting their first stream and there are too many comments. Also, for a first stream, it's just incredible given the amount of messages. She asks Kuga what he has to say and explains that it's a good start to their first stream. As a result, he is the first monster in history who decided to become a streamer. He explains that thanks to the stream, information about the vampire's support for the hero, who was expelled from the group, became known to everyone. After which she reports that their stream has become popular, and clarifies that what she talked about happened on the first stream. She declares that they will hunt the intruders, and he explains that they will begin the hunt. When one doesn't understand, the other says, "Oh, come on." He orders Kuga to watch for the invaders, and she notices their appearance. He then says that they are just in time, and she confirms this. He laughs and she says they've finally come this far. Following this, she claims that at the academy they were just club friends, and he explains that no one expected that they would still be in the same group. He agrees and she expresses joy. Meanwhile, she says that they are in the same group, and he is surprised and replies that she is. He and she are surprised to see two sword-wielding men shouting and rushing forward. And then he shouts for Chikako and Yanagita. Kuga yells, "Damn!" and stands before the two defeated opponents. At the same time, he says Akina, and she has difficulty pronouncing the name Kesno. He is surprised by the turn of events. Moreover, he claims that there were no problems. He had already learned enough lessons and proceeded with extreme caution. He speaks to Akina, who is lying unconscious nearby. Moreover, he says that he can't even reach her hand. He says he can't take it anymore, and she replies that she's tired of it all too. She ends up reaching out to the man, who turns sharply towards her. He screams, trying to stop the black liquid on his hand, after which Kuga says that the work is excellent. He asks, she answers. When she explains that she simply hunts people. He screams that he doesn't believe what's happening, and Kuga starts to speak, but is interrupted. Then she says she doesn't understand why they are so angry. She says she does the same thing as them. She then asks why they raid dungeons, and he is surprised. He claims it's either fame or fortune. Meanwhile, she says that she understands him, but asks him to be grateful for doing what he loves, even if it is dangerous. He says that, and then she delivers a powerful blow to the enemy, causing an explosion and destruction. She apologizes and asks if he wanted to say something. He notices something and expresses surprise. At the same time, he admits that she works effectively and says that she destroyed a B-rank group in 1 second. She claims it's not just about her strength and explains that there is something he doesn't understand. Moreover, Kuga calls himself a poor man and asks how many viewers watch their show. He speaks and he answers. She is also surprised and says that she tried very hard when she killed people and asks how they felt. He says it's terrible and she curses the monster. In the end, she is sure he is impressed, and he explains that this is exactly how it is. He claims that humans were the first to kill monsters. He has no intention of going into dungeons anymore. The others are surprised and admit they enjoyed it. After which she explains that she understood everything. Kuga asks him to calm down and explains that monsters are usually aggressive. He then thanks him for the explanation, and Kuga is surprised. When he says that she is surprised and calls Kuga. She is surprised that all people are monsters. Then he says that you can say that, and she wonders why people are so scary. He is silent, and he says that he has nothing to say in response. After this, he tells them to move on, explaining that wishes could only mean one thing, and that people are sometimes like monsters. Kuga says that this is a demon world where different creatures live and magic is present everywhere. Meanwhile, she asks him to give her his hand. He agrees. And then she asks what's wrong. And he explains that he feels a little awkward. She says she didn't know he was such a coward. But he remains silent, and in the end Kuga agreed. At the same time, he orders preparations for teleportation. She asks how Kuga is, but he remains silent. Moreover, he explains that this is a city of monsters. She claims that only monsters go to the city of monsters, as the name suggests. Moreover, the voice is surprised that the monsters have their own city. He says it's peaceful here, and then admits he's fallen in love with the cute monsters. In the end, she tells Kuga. She asks him how he feels about being the first human to visit the monster city. After which he expresses his opinion and asks if it is good. She explains that if people are not prohibited from visiting the city, then he says that everything will be fine. When he says he's human and asks if she'll be okay, she says yes, he does. He replies, of course. Then Kuga explained that she was now his property and he didn't have to worry about her safety. She insists no one has stopped her from going for a walk, and everything is fine. He asks if he can just stroll around the city. He then announces that this is the first ever stream from Monster City. He thanks everyone for the stream and notes that no one knew about it before. He also calls the vampire the best. Alicia aims to become the final boss, but she wants something more. Meanwhile, she explains that instilling fear in people is necessary so that they stop raiding dungeons, and if they knew that monsters have the same ordinary life, they might change their attitude towards them. He doubts that Alicia will achieve this, but she smiles and invites him to go to her house. And then he is surprised, and the girl asks what it is, and the man explains that it is a vampire. He calls it a minotaur and an S-rank boss, ordering it to run away. At the same time, she says hello to Mino. He asks how things are. The woman explains that Kuga is making new acquaintances. The man is surprised and asks if Mino is at peace. Moreover, he explains that this is his friend Mino. He claims that this is his man Kuga. Furthermore, the Minotaur says it is nice to meet you, and Theseus reciprocates. He thinks it makes sense to bring people here, and Kuga is surprised, asking why. He eventually explains that it's not the done thing, and she replies that Mino has a very cute voice. He apologizes to Kuga for the cold reception, after which he asks for forgiveness, and Kuga explains that it takes a lot of courage to enter the city of monsters. He believes that the Minotaur is right. When Kuga realized that sending a human to a city of monsters was unwise, he had no other choice for two reasons. After the massacre of one of the groups, returning to the human city was risky. He then explained that he didn't want Alicia to leave the dungeon, while the other side claims otherwise. He explains that he decided to become a deterrent to avoid deaths outside the dungeon. Following this, he explains that without the exile they might never have met. She says that Kuga was building various theories in his head, laughing, and in the comments they note that he is walking on pins and needles and trying to look intellectual. Meanwhile, she asks him to look at the comments, but he remains silent. She asks what bear fangs are, and he explains that that was the name of the group he was in. And then Mino explains that Kuga is her person and she will not tolerate disrespect towards him. And he says that it is clear and that in any case, he is surprised that this is your man. At the same time, he announced that they had decided to end the stream. She suggests making a detour and he agrees. Plus, she asks him what he likes, and he replies that he thinks it's apples. He asks about apples and she replies that they like them too, especially green ones. She also asks him the price of 2 apples. He replies 500 yen. And the man is surprised. He says he might have heard wrong. She asks what he means, and he explains that nothing. Finally, she speaks, he hands over a bill, then shows the coin in his hand. He is surprised, but the other two are silent. After which she asks, and he explains that the main currency in Japanese dungeons is the yen. She asks if there is another currency in the monster city. When people talk about the 9 dungeons, they mean locations in Japan, the USA, China, Thailand, the UAE, France, Egypt, Brazil, and Australia. Each country has its own dungeon. It is then explained that the entrance to the Japanese dungeon is located in Ariake, Tokyo. The Asian region includes China and Thailand. The Japanese dungeon is isolated, with access restricted to Japanese citizens. Following this, he asks how they make money, and she is surprised. She says they get a little bit every day, but he doesn't understand where it comes from. Meanwhile, she asks what he means, and he explains that he didn't think human currency was used here. She offers food, treats, and advises not to worry. And then she says he should just relax. He says they've come to Alicia's home, and she explains that it's temporary housing until she builds her own castle. At the same time, he says that they saw many hotels along the way, and she says that she does not want to leave him alone and is surprised that he will never agree. He invited her to his home. Besides, he says it's dinner, and she explains that it's at Alicia's. He says it's a green apple. Besides, Kuga says that the apples on the table are for her. But she remains silent, lost in thought. She says the water is warm and pleasant, and that you can relax and forget about your problems here. Finally, it was time for bed, and the girl was screaming. He asks what's wrong, and she replies that there's trouble and is surprised that Kuga is on the bed, after which she says that she only has one bed. She reports that they only have one bed and asks what to do. When she sleeps with a man in the same bed, the girl lies on top of the guy. He says that they have already done a lot of things today. She then explained that she had invited him and could not allow him to sleep on the floor. He claims it's nothing, but she firmly declares that she will lie down on the floor. Following this, he explains that the most important thing is the bed linen. She is surprised, and he explains that he just woke up and got out of bed. Meanwhile, she remains silent with puffed-up cheeks. He says he can't sleep, and she replies that she can't sleep either. Then they show a house under the moon. And then Kuga says that she can't afford to be weak, explaining that if she falls, she won't be able to get up. She says she can't take it anymore and is going to take drastic action. At the same time, she lies down on the man, who closes his eyes and hugs her. She is surprised. He shouts that he doesn't believe it. Besides, she asks for forgiveness, and he wonders why the anesthetic doesn't work. She asks him what he is doing lying on top of her. In addition, he announced his intention to get an injection. She claims it's his blood. He ends up asking why she should do this while he's sleeping, and she explains that she only wanted to take a little bit and understands, but she apologizes and says that she tried a little in the morning and can't forget the taste. After which he is surprised that she always killed everyone who came to her. He says that he was spared only because she liked his blood, and she replies that his blood smells delicious. When she asks him to listen, he explains that he is willing to give blood if it does not kill him. She thanks him and hugs him. She then announces that she has put polish on her nail, and he comments that it looks beautiful. She is surprised. He then asks if she's sure it's enough and whether she's drinking it straight. She explains that it's quite enough. She asks who she takes him for. Meanwhile, he claims that they don't do that. She clarifies that they are not relatives, and he is simply her man. And then he screams. The girl says that with him it's already 26, and the man explains that counting 4 yesterday and 4 today, they've already killed 8. Alicia has killed 18 people in the past, and has now killed 26 people. At the same time, the first condition to become an SS rank boss is to kill 30 people, defeat A and S rank groups, capture other boss clans and create a fortress, after which it remains to get rid of one group. He and she are streaming. The chat is filled with good luck wishes and comments about how fun the stream was. Moreover, he claims that viewers like their streams and asks them to try harder, considering that this is already the 4th one. He reports that he receives many comments, including condemning ones. He also says that it's time to look for the next target, and Kuga greets him and explains that they've already searched. She is surprised, and he explains something with slight excitement. In the end, he reports that they came here to protect this area from enemies. He says it's a monster slayer, and the group calls themselves Monster Slayers and is glad to meet them. After which he says that they are their followers Monster Slayers and turns to the guys. He claims that they are here having fun. When he says that they didn't think that their actions would attract attention, she is surprised. Then he says that we need to be careful. The voice claims that they are a strong group. Following this, he reports that there are 4 people in their group who are always together and do not leave each other in trouble. He strikes the bat, causing an explosion. Kuga is surprised, along with the other girl. Meanwhile, one says, "Oh my god," and the other asks why they dodged. Kuga claims they are A rank, and his words are true. And then she says that they are lucky and they can fulfill one more condition from the list. He is surprised, and she is accompanied by 4 others. At the same time, she claims that this is even better, and he explains that they will fulfill 2 conditions at once to become an SS rank boss. Kuga shouts to go forward, and he laughs. Moreover, he notices the attack and blocks the blow, and the enemy screams and makes another attack. He says that an A-rank fighter is fighting a vampire, and she explains that, while she doesn't like monsters, she's rooting for the vampire. He also warns to be careful. She directs an energy charge at the enemy, who reflects the attack with his spear. He ends up deflecting arrows with his shield, while she stands next to him with a spear. He shouts that she is distracted, but she remains silent and looks at him, after which he offers to dodge his lightning strike and delivers it. He looks at the enemy, and Kuga says that he is a freak. When she warns him, he agrees. She's glad he stayed out of it at first. It shows he believes she's worthy of being the new boss. He replies that's good. Then she says that everything is fine. He takes charge of the others, and Kuga agrees. After this, he says that he understands, and she silently looks forward. He stated that he would not let his interlocutor go. Meanwhile, he shouts that he always works, and Kuga is surprised and says that he has already eaten today. He sighs and he asks if he thinks he can beat him and calls him a hero. And then he explains that Shitahara's class is a swordsman, a warrior who specializes in close combat. He has a hero class with maximum stats and skills in attack, defense, magic, resistance, and agility, and also has a variety of skills including attack, defense, support, and healing, but is inferior to specialists and will not be able to defeat a group of enemies. At the same time, it describes a swordsman class with the following characteristics: Attack A+, Defense B+, Magic C, Resistance C, and Dexterity S. He agrees to start, and the other one shouts, "Say goodbye to your life, bastard." He also uses acceleration magic and attacks the other man, who deflects the blow with his sword. He claims that the hero, who is supposed to destroy monsters, has allied himself with one of them, and he is amazed by this. Besides, he's just a con man who decided to pretend to be a hero. Another confirms why they got rid of him. He admits to guilt and says that they dreamed of becoming the best band. In the end, he says that this group meant everything to him, reaching out to them. Kuga said he would complete any task. Then he notices Sitahu, and the warriors shout and attack, while he and his companion watch what is happening. He doesn't understand what's happening. When she says Kuga did a great job, he confesses to the murder, and she confirms his words. Then they explained that they had died and would remain truly dead, although, of course, they would be resurrected. The monster slayer will be temporarily unable to enter the dungeon. Following this, he says that, while traveling with the vampire, he should have understood that this would happen sooner or later. The woman asks Kuga how he felt after his first kill. He replies that it was the same as killing a monster, and there was no difference. Meanwhile, she explains the analogy. He listens silently and is surprised. He announces that he has received a class stone and can open a new branch in the class. And then he calls Kuga, and she runs and talks about what will happen after the battle. The voice explains that at least 30 invaders and an A-rank group must be defeated, and also lists additional tasks. At the same time, he claims that the audience did not understand anything, while she adds that the audience applauds and asks about the demands. Kuga screams and lunges forward with his weapon, and he is surprised. Then the girl with wings lands abruptly and tries to stop the blow with her hand. Besides, he is surprised, and she quickly dodges, waving her weapon. He is surprised. Also appearing is Lady Julia, a member of the Bear Fangs group St. Julia. About 50 years ago, strange dungeons appeared on Earth. As a result, the dungeons were filled with dangerous monsters. He explains that when entering a dungeon, a person gains a class and magic awakens, and she explains that this is a strange place. After which, naturally, modern society did not ignore the dungeons. Kuga was of the hero class and certain events occurred. When he was expelled from the group, he was thrown into a secret room in the dungeon. She says that he met a vampire there. Then she became interested in them, and he explains something, holding her by the collar. Kuga explains that he's decided to team up with Alice and broadcast together. Alice attacks sharply, and Kuga tries to defend himself. Following this, Lady Julia appeared. She says she scared him, and he explains that she decided to attack him stealthily and demands that he shut up. Meanwhile, she accuses him of insolence, and he is surprised by her actions towards Kuga. The vampire lady reveals that they are from Kuga's former group and is surprised by the presence of fangs. And then she says that she came to return the bear fangs to Kuga. He admits ignorance, and she reminds him that he was exiled. At the same time, he is surprised that this is so, and she explains that then why she came. She claims that during his exile, Julia remained silent. Besides, she is not very sociable, and he does not understand what she really wants. She claims that her blade will say everything for her, and suddenly rushes forward, surprising the other girl. Furthermore, one warns to beware of the vampire lady, while another calls her a saint with muscles instead of brains and a Highland lady. She asks who they should support, explaining that Lady Highlander is a saint class that specializes in light-based magical attacks, but with a brute fighting style for direct confrontation with the enemy. Julia eventually earned the nickname Highlander due to her silence, but her attractive appearance made her very popular. She talks about the magic of the holy night. She says she can't give it her all because of the strain on her body and expresses dissatisfaction. After which, a sharp object pierces it and goes deeper, causing a strong blow. The woman screams, and Kuga sits calmly on the ground, watching her. When he explains the meaning of the word healing, the girl is surprised and approaches the man in the cloak standing next to another girl. She is silent, looking forward. Then she tells Kuga his name. She is surprised by his agreement, while she doubts and tries to object. After this she asks and he explains. He says she was willing to go all the way, even if she got seriously hurt, but that's not the problem. Meanwhile, he announces his exclusion from the group and his joining with the vampire lady, apologizes and clarifies that he will not return to Alicia, who is unhappy with his presence. Kuga explains that she can't use magic due to the peculiarities of her body. She insists that it's not a problem, and then he is surprised and she trembles. She screams that Sarah is an idiot. At the same time, she jumps with the staff, and he asks in surprise what is happening. He claims he made her cry. He is also surprised to hear his name and that she called him Sarah, and she says, she thanks. Besides, he is perplexed, and she silently walks to the closed door of the castle with the city in the background. She says the next goal is to take over the clan. He eventually reports that Kuga has not fully comprehended the information and clarifies that Julia has come to kill Alicia. He admits that he doesn't usually think about it, but now it's important for him to know that Julia has returned home safely. After which he asks if she returned home, and says that she answered with just one word, yes. He decides to continue helping Alicia and returns to their business, naming the next target. When she tells that, as Alicia said, we need to capture the clan of another boss. He understands but points to another condition of the S-rank boss and asks if this is also one of the conditions. He then suggests taking over the Minotaur clan, and the girl is surprised that she and Mino are friends and says that of course. He says he didn't mean to do that to her, but the other one understands. After this, he says that we need to find another clan and shows a list of S-rank bosses. There are 8 S-rank bosses in total. Previously there was only one, the evil spirit. Meanwhile, the number of characters has increased to 8, and it is impossible to defeat one of them. It is explained that each monster is replaced by another, and there will always be 8 bosses. Then the voice explained that defeating the boss and destroying the S-rank group were mandatory conditions, listing the S-rank bosses. Kuga is said to be in the A-rank group. Little is known about the S-rank groups. At the same time, he asks how the clan takeover occurs, and she explains that it is essentially a free choice. She argues that supporting his side would be more beneficial. He agrees, pointing to another option. He also asks if it has anything to do with blood. She agrees but does not want to approach him, and he notes that she is very careful. In addition, she gives up alcohol. He denies his thoughts, which Kuga found out about. As a result, in a recent battle, Alicia absorbed blood using her wings. He claims that she no longer drinks blood. He then explains that she only likes Kuga's blood, and says that it's worth taking into account that it might be related to his O blood type. Kuga didn't believe in insect blood type preferences. When he turns to Alicia and asks what they will do, Alicia laughs. She has already made her decision. Then the background is the house and the setting sun. He explains that the Japanese dungeon is divided into 2 layers, located on the 32nd floor underground. Following this, the top one rushes into the sky, the bottom one goes deep underground, and there is no hierarchical ranking among them. The 15th floor of the upper layer and the lower 15th floor are almost identical in difficulty, earning the place the nickname Double Dungeon. Meanwhile, he explains that the deeper you go, the larger the floor becomes depending on the level. Monsters do not appear on floor 0, so safe zones have been created on floors 10, 20, 30, and 40. And then on the 10th and 20th floors it is said that people were even able to build cities. She reveals that Alicia's hidden room is on the 43rd floor, and that the S-rank bosses are on the 45th floor due to the Overlord's absence. At the same time, the upper and lower layers on the floor are divided into 3 sections, and each section has its own boss. They say the final boss has already been defeated. In addition, people were able to defeat the final boss on the upper floors, and many decided to take this place. They explain that when defeating an SS-rank boss, other bosses immediately try to take his place. He also asks where they are going, and she explains it by taking a step. He says the 32nd floor is mostly made up of stone structures, and she adds that it is a typical dungeon. Eventually, the voice says Kobold, the audience understands where they are heading, and discusses that it really is 32 floors. She claims to have captured the Kobold clan, and he confirms her assumption. After which she says, "Let's capture them all." Turning to Alicia, she wanted to capture the Kobold column. That was her plan. When Kuga finds out that there is a girl here, he asks who it is and is called Kuga. He asks what they will do and if she wants to get rid of her, and she replies that she will see. Then she says that she doesn't want to kill without reason, and he listens silently. She doubts she will be hostile to him, but he is confident that people like Kuga will not be able to destroy them. Following this, he confirms his words. He says it's weird, and she asks why she's here alone. Meanwhile, he notes that lone researchers are no longer to be found, while she clarifies that there is no broadcast drone in sight. He reports that yesterday Julia came alone and expresses confidence in her strength and character. And then Kuga explains that she has her own reasons for raiding the dungeon alone. He is discussing canceling the revival. At the same time, he claims that this is most likely a suicide attempt. She's surprised. He says that canceling the resurrection means she's gone mad. He demands that she stop and explains that she chose to die. In addition, the regenerator class allows you to use resurrection magic. Kuga explains that this magic removes the limit on the number of revivals. Furthermore, she claims that only a regenerator is capable of canceling rebirth after death. Before entering the dungeon, each explorer must pay for the services of a regenerator in order to be able to revive and return to the dungeon if the entrance is closed. As a result, before entering the dungeon, it is necessary to pass a check at a special barrier that checks the explorer's ability to revive in the event of death. The voice explains that the class is in demand, but is rarely found in dungeons. After which she says that everything is clear, and he thanks her for the explanation. She suggests that Kuga do something, and he asks what it's about. When a regenerator is such a rare class, let's recruit one. He shouts that Lady Regerator should not rush, and she is surprised, and the man in armor exclaims what is happening. Then he confessed his love and called the vampire Lady Sweet. Kuga reveals that she killed many people a few days ago, but has no plans to exterminate all humanity. After this, he cannot stop, and she tries to catch up with him. She screams as the tentacles grab her. Alicia explains that she caught her, and the man calls out to Alicia. Meanwhile, she warns him that if he shows his back, he shouldn't be offended if she starts hunting. He is surprised that she is a bear, and the bear is growling nearby. And then he explains that today is the last day of the broadcast and apologizes, and in the comments they ask why. One believes that age restrictions are needed, while the other explains that everything is clear. At the same time, Kuga asks to let her go and promises to leave immediately, and he begs her to stop. She asks to remove the blade and breathes heavily. Besides, she says that she can't deny herself the pleasure of playing with him. Kuga asks him if he likes dogs, and he is surprised and repeats the word. Besides, she says that she likes them. Kuga says, "Excellent." Then he adds, "Then let's go." The man jumps forward. In the end, he calls it a dog's paradise, and they are surprised. Kushina says it's nice to meet you, and the girl asks if he knows them. After which she asks for forgiveness, says that she didn't hear him, and he replies no. He asks if they're famous TV presenters. Kuga explains they're not, and the woman says it's okay that he doesn't know them. When she claims they are very famous, he confirms it. She says they're the most talked about topic online. Kushina doesn't hear the comments and asks if it's true. She then suggests choosing an area for the hike. She offers a choice and is surprised, asking in what sense. Following this, she points to the first zone and asks you to look carefully while standing next to it. He points to the second zone, and Kuga says that things will be more difficult. Meanwhile, the two creatures explain that they are in the third zone, and the girl regrets it. Two wolves stand in front of a building. Next to them is a sign about the fourth zone. And then she asks Kuga if he doesn't think it's wonderful here. He claims it's peaceful here, and she agrees. At the same time, he says that they will do it here. Then the girl apologizes, and Kuga is surprised. She says that they are not by any chance in the Kobold clan. Moreover, he claims that there are guards here too. He says it's a dog's paradise, and she agrees. She also asks him if he likes kobolds. The animal barks. As a result, there is a guard at the entrance to the mansion, and she explains that depending on the type of kobolds, the colony itself changes. It is explained that the colony chosen by Alicia is associated with Japanese culture. After which it is explained that the kobolds themselves are similar to Shiba Inus. He says they have fluffy cheeks. When he says cutie, Kushina still wasn't happy. He couldn't resist the fluffy kobolds. She wants to cuddle him, and he happily responds. Then Kuga defends himself from the monster's attack, and the girl with the staff is surprised. He claims he did a great job. She warns Kushina to be careful, and the woman explains that while they are cute, they are all kobolds. Following this, Kuga explains that the kobold's weak spot is their neck, and says that if you scratch them there, then he explains that the toys came to life and fell, and they are watching it. Meanwhile, Kuga suggests moving on, while he is surprised and she apologizes. She apologizes, trying to say something, and the man explains, "Sorry," and then he explains that everything is fine. Kuga screams that he is not okay. At the same time, he asks her to show him her hand, and she is surprised and raises her hand. She explains the treatment. Furthermore, Kuga explains that the revival magic always activated automatically, asks if he is okay, and tells him that it was the first time she used healing, and he says that Kuga's healing is much better than his. He claims that everything is fine, and he says, "That's how it is." In addition, he says thank you, and she explains that she should thank him. He is silent, and she looks at him. She finally asks him to go and asks if he is okay now. He claims that it's all thanks to her, and she confirms it. After which she says that they are taking too long, and he calls the guys. He claims they are walking, but she notes that they are slow. When he says, she explains that she has already managed to calm down all the kobolds. He apologizes, saying that because of her they missed a lot, as she is too fast. Then Kuga explains that he can't talk. The man explains that they have arrived here, and the woman says that she is glad to see them. He suggests asking, she agrees. Following this, he asks why she turned off rebirth. He claims that regenerators are in high demand and have a bright future, and she agrees. Meanwhile, he is surprised, and she says that he is absolutely right. She claims that any regenerator would prefer to work for the company. And then he says that regenerators can earn good money, but the workload is very heavy, and not everyone can handle it. She says that people come to them to die every day. At the same time, she says that they come again and die again. He is resting today, but he is sure that tomorrow people will come and die again. Besides, Kuga says it's tiring. She claims she didn't plan to die in the dungeon, and he claims she misunderstood. Besides, she wanted to remember what it was like to venture into the dungeon. It is explained that thanks to resurrection magic, one can enter the dungeon an infinite number of times. As a result, the exploration of dangerous dungeons turned into an entertaining show. He says that the power of the regenerators is great, but this is their curse. After which he explains that the desire to escape such a life is normal, and she says that she is sure many people feel the same. She says that there are people who are ready to accept such a fate and asks for their opinion. When the elf offers to join her clan, Kuga is surprised. He says he hasn't noticed yet, and she asks what they're talking about and calls Klana by name. Then she says that Alicia is a monster. She asks what. Alicia then says that she has wings, and he replies that he is making this clear. He claims to be human and she asks who he is. Meanwhile, she is surprised, and he begins to speak. Kuga refuses to join the monster clan because of his mother. The others are surprised and ask why. And then she explains, and he remains silent, surprised that her desire to die did not bother him. She claims he will find new supporters. He agrees. At the same time, he says of course, and then explains that no one would want to join this vampire. Kuga is silent, but she screams. Moreover, the girl is grateful for the opportunity to break out of her shell, agrees with enthusiasm, but objects that her mother will be angry. He regrets it, and she explains that this is how they captured the Kobold clan. Besides, it was not possible to persuade Kushina. Kuga and Alicia captured the kobolds and returned to the city. As a result, the city of monsters became accessible at any time. Alicia and her companion decided to return home. She asks what he wants, and he explains that it's simple. After which he says that they received a good amount of donations during the broadcast. Donna asks what happened. He explains that they made money. Donna is surprised. When he explains that the more viewers on the stream, the more money they will get, and thanks her, saying that without her he would not have been able to get so many viewers. She agreed. He then explains that if they run out of cash, they'll have to return to the human city. She's surprised and asks what that is, after which he says he understands. He finds it strange, and she claims that they spend a lot, but she doesn't understand where they get the money from. After this she speaks, he asks, and she looks at him. Kuga says he gets 5 of these bills every day, and he's surprised that it's 5,000 yen a day. Meanwhile, he explains that he needs to return to the human city. Kuga says it's okay to use, apologizes, and admits he's about to cry. The other man explains that's not what he's talking about. And then he explains that you can use morale. He and she are surprised. At the same time, she did not know about the possibility of payment by phone, and he confirmed this. She advises him to study the magic item. He agrees. Besides, apples alone aren't enough for me, as they won't give me the vitamins I need. I need to make something else, he said to Alicia. She is surprised by the vitamins, and he explains that he doesn't really understand, but okay. In addition, the image shows various dishes neatly laid out on the surface. He is surprised, and Kuga asks if it is edible. In the end, he asks what she talked about with the kobolds, and she replies, this. He said that he could be called upon with the help of the ring given to him if necessary. After which he explains that this is an artifact for summoning, and they can summon it at any time. She says so. When he says that the clan should not work like this, he remains silent. She tells Kuga that he is wrong if he thinks that she, as the head of the clan, cannot control the kobolds. Then she says they're fluffy and cute, and he's surprised and yells that she already knew that. He says the ring is capable of many things but not everything. She then announces that she can summon them at any time. She then apologizes and explains that she was testing the ring. The kobold and she exchange sounds. It's explained that kobolds can't speak, but their expressions can tell their intentions. The man is the head of the colony. The woman asks his name. The creature answers, Waff. Meanwhile, he announces that she will be called Kaboryu, and the creature screams. He remarks that he doesn't like the name, and she apologizes and allows him to return home. And then they hear barking. She says goodbye, and the barking repeats. He finds it convenient to have this artifact on hand. At the same time, she informs that she will need to wait a little before she can use it again. He claims that the artifacts cannot work without recharging, and she agrees. She also clarifies that they have other important roles. He says that Alicia is happy and adds that they discussed kobolds at length. Also, Alicia tells Kuga, he answers, and then they show the house. She asks what donations are and explains that they are not the only ones who do this, and he confirms this. In the end, she says that she was interested in watching other people's channels. He explains and she asks to show her channel, after which he says okay, and she urges him to hurry. She is surprised and he explains that he understood. When he says that in their group there was only one person doing this. She is surprised but he is silent. Then she says that it is she. She asks if it was the same group that expelled him, and he explains that it was an accident. Following this, he confirms. Kuga watches Bearclaw's broadcast for the first time since his exile and says that a lot has changed for them. Meanwhile, a new participant appeared. He doesn't understand the reason. And then she asks to listen and then asks if they were really his comrades. He claims he understands, and she explains that their fight looks strange. At the same time, she explains that they seem to have no spark at all. He admitted that Alicia was right. In addition, two are sitting on the ground and telling the three that they cannot go further, and the skeleton with the sword moves sharply. Sarah is the leader of the group and a holy swordswoman. In addition, one of them informs about the movement of enemies, while the other calls for caution and preparation for battle. Kuga shouts that they are here, and two rank twin skeletons appear in front of him. Eventually, Saint Julia asks to be allowed to join the fight, and Priest Shaun explains that this is a foolish plan. He explains that according to the peculiarities of her class, she should be in the rear and heal, explaining that the healer is the most important member of the group, maintaining the condition of all its members, and she is surprised and begins to object. After which Kuga shouts that he is wounded, and the two standing behind him are surprised. A man casts a healing spell. When he talks about the speed of healing, he explains that it is not surprising, since he is a student of Louise Han and an S-rank group, and says that this is expected from Saiyan. He says they've gotten weaker and she's surprised. She then uses the Holy Knight technique to attack the enemy that appears. Kuga attacks three opponents with his sword, preparing to fight with a spear. Following this, the skeleton attacks, dealing a powerful blow. He reports that they are finished. Meanwhile, he calls Julia, but she remains silent. The sorceress Makari advises not to overexert herself and claims that she knows this. And then he tells Ri that she won't explain why she went into battle. She claims that she is the same as Sarah and remains silent. At the same time, she remains silent, and he explains that it was stupid. He claims that she is there to protect him as a healer, but comments indicate that she is always calm and it has nothing to do with her group. He also thanks them for their support and asks them not to insult their comrades. He tells Julia and Makari that they are okay and that they need to get rid of their stupid habits. Besides, she understood, and he explains something with a tense expression on his face. She claims that she knows, but he remains silent, walking alongside. In the end, she says that the saint seemed much stronger during the fight. He says it looks like it. She confirms and asks Kuga to speak, after which Kuga asks if they can leave comments. After which he agrees, and she expresses a desire to leave a comment. He agrees and she asks how to leave a comment, not understanding the meaning. When he explains that you can send voice comments directly or set up a program to read the written text, Kuga completely forgot at that moment. She realized he would leave a comment. They then explain that the comments will be written on behalf of Kuga, and he says, "Try your best." He says, "Damn," and she laughs. Following this, he expresses surprise at accidentally pressing the send button, and Kuga says, "Try your best." He, she, and the girl are surprised. Meanwhile, Mikari states her name, and the other girl confirms it. The woman apologizes to Ri, and the chat starts discussing Kuga and asking if he is the guy who was kicked out of the group. Then she explains that he's currently streaming with a cute vampire. The girl is surprised and says she's just. Kuga screams, attacking with his sword, and the two girls are surprised. He screams for the skeletons to scatter, and Alicia worries about the monsters and feels sorry for the skeletons. At the same time, he reports that Sarah suddenly changed and easily dealt with all the obstacles, while she notes that the guys were acting strange, and he explains that this time everything was different. He sat to his right, and she explains that they ended up next to each other. Besides, it's Sarah. He says that in high school he was very popular because of his blonde hair, even though it is his natural color. He was also active in the literature club and kendo club, and she says he was simply given verbal warnings. He says that he behaved quietly and did not stand out in any way, and Kuga explains that his deskmate was like that. He ended up admitting that he was shy and nervous when talking, and she called him by his first name. He expressed his pleasure at meeting us, after which he confirms that he is glad. A man invites Kuga to a cafe. Kuga accepts. The man says Sarah was a true friend to him. When he says that thanks to someone he has become a little more sociable and positive. Kuga says he'll be lonely, but the other suggests they go to the bathroom and go home together. Kuga agrees. He then reveals that they were close friends. He claims that they are completely different. Following this, they temporarily separated. He asks Sarah how she's doing. He explains that he invited him to a group chat the day before graduation. Meanwhile, he mentioned that there were about 10 people in the group with whom he didn't interact except for Sarah. He admitted he felt insecure, but many of the guys were friendly with him. The group also included Julia and Mikari. And then Julia was popular, but she behaved coldly. She says she was close to Mikari. At the same time, he noted that this group was special for him. He tells how Sarah wants to become a famous streamer one day and asks someone to broadcast his dungeon runs with him. Moreover, he is surprised and says that he was very surprised in such a situation, and Kuga says that he agrees. He immediately agreed to support Seru in his endeavor and confirmed his consent. In addition, after Sirio's consent, Julia and Mikari also agreed. He admitted that he enjoyed exploring the dungeon. As a result, he got to know Julia and Mikari from a new side, which turned out to be important. Sarah suggests a name for the channel. He then asks if there are any suggestions and gets agreement, with Mikari saying it's a great idea. She suggests taking the first syllable of each of their names. He agrees and says he likes the idea. When she asks, Kuga says his name and the others remain silent. She asks if anyone has any ideas, and he explains that he can't think of anything. He then explained that it could be called Bear Claws. He argues that it's worth thinking about, and Kuga agrees. Following this, he says that he likes it and asks how about her, and she explains that she doesn't mind. He claims that thanks to Sarah's attractive appearance, Mikari's positive attitude, and Yulitz's gentle smile, he can achieve success. Meanwhile, he studied theory, trained and improved his physical abilities so as not to let his friends down. He underwent combat training. And then he says that for the first time in his life he took up something seriously. He admits his helplessness, but decides to work hard to become stronger. At the same time, he notes that he shouldn't. The girl and Kuga smile, and the man watches them from afar. He refuses to be a burden to them. Moreover, the first serious test for the group was a B-rank monster, and they encountered an orc. Kuga explains that orcs are formidable opponents. After a long battle, they managed to corner the orc. He swung his axe, making a final attempt to attack. He also reports that Sarah was frozen before she could dodge, while he risked his life to save her. He says he felt like he was on the verge of death. Eventually, they realized the group's main weakness: the lack of a healer. After the test, they were delighted with their new powers and did not think about a healer. He then explains that at that moment his class stone began to glow. He announces that he has a new class called Hero, and that he has become a hero. When he explains that it is a special class with healing magic, she reproaches him for his work. He replies that he cannot help. She is surprised. The other girl cries. He then reveals that his assistance to his comrades was insufficient due to his lack of advanced healing magic, making him a burden to the group. Kuga talks about the harvest, and a man in armor listens to him. Following this, he asks what is the matter and what he is thinking about. He claims nothing. Meanwhile, he says good luck next to the girl. He remains silent, and in the comments they ask Kuga to try harder, explaining that after yesterday's comment they became too popular. And then the voice is surprised that it is Mino, and asks if Mino will help them. She greets Mino and he is surprised. At the same time, he explains to Alicia that something is wrong with him. She asks what it is and he replies that it's simply not there. She asks if he is hiding something, he is surprised, and she explains that she understands. Moreover, he claims that this is not true and repeats the sound, expressing confusion. He notices that she is hiding something, and in the correspondence they say that Mino has a secret and that he does not know how to lie. She also says that they are friends and asks him to tell her everything, and he starts talking, making the sound H. He says it's good, and she listens nearby. In the end, he says that it is true. He tells and she asks, after which he explains that someone is following him, and she asks for forgiveness and says that they didn't even think about it. One says she's fragile, the other thinks he needs to be caught. When he received a message with an order to find and kill the stalker, he was surprised. He claims he doesn't believe it. She's surprised, and he reassures Mino and tells her not to worry. Then she promises to help him, and he is surprised. He agrees and she smiles. After this, he asks to tell everything. He says that a few days ago he had a feeling of being watched. Meanwhile, he ran back into the busy street. He claims she could have killed him with a huge axe, and the other agrees. And then Kuga considers herself poor. Viewers constantly express similar opinions that the vile stalker deserved death and does not deserve forgiveness. He said Mino's house was 3 times bigger than Alicia's. She admitted she was scared and expressed gratitude to God. At the same time, he explains that he forgot to water the flowers, and if they aren't watered every day, they might wilt. She agrees and says she'll stand up for them if anyone tries to take down the sweet girl. He doesn't believe it. She screams. The man in the mask says that the situation is critical. Besides, she says it is, and he calls it Mino. He says he feels it again and confirms that this is exactly it. She also calls Kuga to inspect the garden first. Kuga convinces her to go with them for safety, and the girl agrees. He eventually reports that the werewolves have displaced the salamander. She is surprised to see the werewolf boss standing before her and asks how serious this is, noting his impressive size. She claims he is stalking Mino and demands an explanation, after which he explained that he was simply watching to make sure no one harmed her. She says it's true, when he says he only wanted to protect her and confirms it with one word. He says she's always shy and it's cute, but she wonders why they haven't even met. He then explains the meaning of the monsters. She screams, "Run away." The man is surprised and asks why a man, and the other man explains that a minotaur. He says that it is unacceptable to be friends with a person below the dignity of an S-rank monster, and Kuga shouts at them not to insult his friend. After this, Mino and the girl listen attentively. He agreed. Meanwhile, one claims that the man is cheating on her, while the other categorically denies it. He says he fell in love at first sight when they first met at a flower shop, and notices that something is brewing. And then he says that he is talking to himself and asks if he is so unrequitedly in love with Mino. He said that he even felt a little sorry for him. At the same time, one promises to return, the other asks not to return, and in the messages they call him a psycho and a stalker. Kuga, the girl, and the man are silent, watching the appearance of a man who lands on the ground and walks away. Besides, she talks to Kuga, and he looks at her. She decided, and he asks what exactly. She also claims that the werewolves will be dealt with first. He asks to take things slowly, and Kuga thinks that's exactly it. In the end, she is surprised that this is a werewolf fortress, and he tells her that this is the 45th floor of the dungeon. He wishes her luck, and she explains that the enemy will not expect a surprise attack. After which he says that in the end they went to the werewolf lord, an S-rank boss. He is a little nervous and asks if they can defeat him. As they approach the door, Kuga places his hand on it and the door opens for them. Two characters simultaneously shout, "Who is he?" She then asks who it is and he explains that it is a vampire. She came to take over the werewolf clan, and the man orders her to protect the boss and is surprised by such an intention. Following this, Kuga calls them weaklings, and the monsters begin to scream and attack her. She holds out her hand with a ring on her finger, demonstrating determination and strength. Meanwhile, she promises to start the show, after which she exclaims and the dogs begin to bark. Users report the appearance of a squad of attack dogs. One calls them cute, another asks what's going on. And then he shouts, "Woof." She explains that they need to be dealt with, and Kuga says that he will give them support. A wolf figure growls. A man in armor stands behind a group of small wolves. At the same time, he is surprised by this amplifying effect. He considers it a great honor. He's also taken aback by his first words and admits he's unaware of what's going on. His voice sounds brutal like a voice actor's. She tells Koboral that she trusts them. In addition, she asks for one thing to be clarified, and he explains that his name is Vano. He orders them to move forward, while the other assures them that they will prove their loyalty to the mistress. As a result, the pack of dogs runs forward, and the man encourages them to move forward. She suggests leaving everything to Vano and his soldiers and moving on. He agrees, and two characters support this decision. After which Kuga screams that he can't take it anymore, and the man on the couch explains that it's his fault and he should have stopped it earlier. She says they haven't seen each other in a while. He laughs and explains that he didn't think she'd come herself, when he says he can finally legally finish off those who corrupted his minotaur. Kuga is surprised, and the man and the girl argue about whose minotaur it is, explaining that it belongs to them. Then he says that someone is walking by, is surprised and asks if it is the researcher. He wonders who is with her, and she explains that it's just her hobby. She then asks if he keeps Milchan chained up. He denies it and explains that she's special. She tells Kuga that his words are ridiculous and orders him to take the girl away. Meanwhile, Kuga assures him that she'll deal with the werewolf, to which the man asks if she's sure. Kuga confirms and the man understands. He promises to send her to a safe place and return, and she is surprised. And then he says that she needs to be taught a little lesson, and she explains that he stole the phrase from her. The man asks, "Is everything okay?" "Yes." Kuga explains that he can already speak. At the same time, he tells that the werewolf kept the young girl with him, and her clothes are torn, after which he says that he will go with him. She agreed. Plus, Kuga is screaming, and he explains that he can't back down, and she says that she's not going to stop. He orders Dracula to demonstrate his power to his opponent, while the other watches for the first time as the two monsters fight to the death. Besides, he finds it unexpected, and she claims that this is a confrontation between villains. He screams that he won't give up, and she explains that she won't let him win, after which they look at each other with determination. Finally, he hesitates and delivers a powerful blow that destroys the ground beneath him. He screams, after which he screams in pain, and the girl claims that the vampire is stronger than the S-boss. He notes her strength, surprised that she defeated an S-rank boss. When she says he's something, he says he is weak and is surprised that he does not find it. He then explains that no one said he was an S-rank boss, and she is surprised. He claims that the man who was with her has not returned for a long time, and Kuga is surprised. Following this, he constantly complains about his troubles, and she is surprised that it is always only him. He asks if he knows the game Mafia or Werewolf, and Kuga is surprised. Meanwhile, he didn't play but he imagines it, and the other one says that he is also talkative. She claims that it is there. And then she tells him that there is a werewolf there pretending to be a human and killing residents at night, and he admits that he didn't know the details and is surprised when she hints that it was him. She claims it's a werewolf and he's surprised. At the same time, she asks where Kuga is and runs down the corridor in search of him. He explains that he beat the false werewolf so badly that he is unlikely to rise anytime soon. Besides, she screams Kuga, and he explains that it's the devil. The girl refuses passage. The man claims that they are safe and want to talk. She also asks what happened. He claims to be alive and she thanks him. In the end, she tells Kuga. He asks Alicia about the reasons for her facial expression. After which he warns about a real werewolf pointing to the girl, and she is surprised. He claims she already told him, and she asks what exactly. When he says that she herself admitted and said directly that she is a werewolf. He's surprised she said it, but agrees. She explains that she always knew he was cute. He confirms that she meant it. She then explains that Kuga wanted to make her his subordinate and vassal. He says it wasn't him but Alicia, and she confirms it. The girl is surprised. She doesn't believe what she hears. And the man explains that he is a magnet for beauties and decides to put an end to the traitor named he. Following this, she asks why him, and Kuga explains that it is because she says he was kind and he is surprised. Meanwhile, he says that when Kuga-san took him out of there, he kept talking. He heard words of support and reassurance from those around him. And then she says that no one has ever said such kind words to her before. He wants to take Kuga's place. The others ask if she fell in love because of a few words. She's surprised. At the same time, Alice screams that no one has ever said such words to her. He explains that she has never been in such a situation, and she agrees. He asks the vampire why she is so quiet. Besides, she suggested pretending to be weak. She is outraged that they spoke without her permission, and he simply lies down and unsubscribes from the channel. Moreover, she claims that she did not think about it. He says Gray, and the other explains that before answering, the classic pauses, says goodbye and admits his hatred for Kuga as an enemy of humanity. In the end, Kuga says that he still hasn't calmed down, and the girl is surprised and calls him brother. He found out that they were brother and sister and asked in surprise why, after which he confirms. Gray asks if this werewolf girl's name is Gray. When she says she has found the man of her destiny, he begins to speak. She declares that she will become Lord Kugi's servant, and the man explains that he has problems with his head after a blow to the head, and the two are surprised by her words. He then yells at Gray to stop, and Gray smiles and stands next to the other man. He claims that the interlocutor is normal. Following this, she says that he is so kind, pressing her hand to his cheek. She says it was love at first sight. Meanwhile, Kuga claims that love at first sight is always a disaster and can hide a womanizer or a domestic tyrant, and he asks to speak more easily. He claims that everything can be one-sided, and the cat wonders what he thinks about it and laughs at who could possibly speak. And then he says that even if it's one-sided, he doesn't care what his brother thinks. She is surprised that she can now officially be considered Lord Kuga's servant. At the same time, Kuga carefully watches the girl who is explaining something to the man with claws, and the man with a tail stands there doubtingly. He asks about her, and the other one answers that she doesn't. Moreover, Kuga says that after signing the contract, they ask to call her at any time and preferably at least once a day, and she is surprised and agrees. He says that to become an SS-class boss, you need to destroy 30 invaders, break up an A-class and S-class party, get minions, build a boss castle, and make room among the SS bosses. In addition, she reveals that he is also her servant. A notification about a new Kumazimi broadcast arrived at Alicia's house. Finally, Alicia says she wants to watch. He explains that they've turned on the stream again. Kuga says he's curious about what the former teammates will do today, and he confirms it. The man explains that today he'll be gathering materials to upgrade his staff. There will be no fighting. He recounts past problems with team coordination. Then he says they've worked hard on team coordination, and everyone has understood his instructions. He assures that everything will go without errors and you can rest assured. When Saiyan-san is on top, he doesn't like it and seems uneasy. He explains that he was the only one in the previous group who survived the boss fight, and the woman says that Shaun was too strong, which makes her worried. She then expressed gratitude for the support, but asked that they refrain from making negative comments about the team. He strives to raise this party to S-class level, and others note his humanity and responsibility. He then explains that it is a web and thanks them for their support, promising that they will always be rooting for them. He reports pain. Meanwhile, he screams in pain, and she is surprised. She shouts about an emergency, others ask what happened, and she explains what this place is and whether it is really it. And then she says it's a trap, and he explains that it's a teleport trap. She screams, he asks where Shaun is, and she explains what's going on and then screams. At the same time, she reports that Shaun has fallen into a web trap with a teleporter. She explains that it is a trap, and he is surprised and repeats the word, trap. He also explains that anyone caught in a web trap with a teleporter is transported to the S-Class Arachne's lair, where several people had died earlier, and explains that Shaun was also teleported straight to her nest. He agrees. The two girls are surprised. The man calls them to go. The three of them walk towards the enormous creature. In addition, she expresses doubts. Kuga describes his feelings, and he emphasizes the need for action. Three heroes stand before an exploding magical seal that emits powerful energy and destroys the land around it. He ends up revealing that this is Arachne's lair, and the two girls listen as they walk through Arachne's boss's S-Class mansion on the 45th floor. He says the exit is difficult, pointing to the structure, after which he reports that 4 have arrived, and 3 are listening with surprise and tension. Boss Arachne from S-Class says it's a fruitful day. When Kuga says shoo, the spiked creature screams and falls down while the group watches the scene. He announces that today is the last day of S-Class streams, advises saving colors, and clarifies that as long as Shaun is alive, everything is under control. Then one of them talks about the chance to raise the team to S-Class, and the other thanks for the support and agrees to proceed according to the plan. The girl explains the increased protection, the man notes the increased protection, the demon demands to attack. Following this, Yulia attacks, the commentator notes the precise strike, typical for her. She is bored and wants to see the meat, and he notices the attack and shouts that he is defending himself. Meanwhile, Kuga fights the huge monster, repelling its powerful attacks. He shouts. A man with a staff stands and watches, and then the man explains the auto-healing spell, pointing his hand at the creature. He announces Saiyan's new healing spell. The girl shouts about acceleration, and Kuga talks about increased agility. At the same time, he says that now Sarah will be able to resist, and she explains that this is excellent. He explains that it is a healer, with the creature's eyes in the background. In addition, Kuga and Lena are anxiously discussing the unexpected event. He explains that when fighting a human group, the monster usually attacks the healer first, explaining that if they were normal monsters. He also attacks with a powerful blow, while the 3 girls and Kuga watch what is happening. He threatens to attack, and the two are ready to fight. As a result, Julia prepares for battle, clutching her sword at his request. Julia defeats the enemy. The man thanks her. Makari is surprised, and Kuga explains that everything is fine.